Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're gonna be doing how to do this looping kind of like torus animation. Pretty simple. I think this is a really good first geometry nodes project. Let's just jump right into it. We have our scene. We click this, go to geometry node. So first things first, delete the cube and pull in a curved circle. So with the curved circle, we're gonna get something really important to make it really easy to animate these kind of like particles on the thing. To make it really easy to see the animation, we're gonna make this into a star. So we're gonna remesh this to curve to mesh. And we're going to look for a star, which is a curved primitive star. We'll do 5 points to make it easy. And then we're going to make it a bit smaller. So like maybe like 0.2, 0.4 maybe. Let's see how this looks. It's looking okay. And we're going to change the shading type. So set shade smooth. Unclick this to force it to be flat so we see it a bit better. And so then what we can do is we can also use the set curve tilt to animate the spin of the torus. So you kind of get this look of, if you have the camera up above, things kind of coming in or out depending on how we have the rotation set. So now we have this. Now the question is, how are we going to set points on all of this? There's 2 methods. We can do distribute points on faces, which is very common. We can also do set faces to points, I think. No, it's mesh to points. There we go. These are our 2 options. So let's see let's see what happens if we use this one first, and then we can see how we want to do it. So we're gonna do a join geometry, and we're gonna add these points on top. Cool. Okay. This looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. Maybe lower the density. As we move the curve tilt, it looks like they're staying pretty much on the mesh as we would expect, but a few points they'll kind of pop in and out of existence, like right here. We move this back and forth, you'll see it pop in and out of existence, right? That's because the overall like geometry of all of these faces is changing. We're distributing the points here on faces. So what that means is as we change the geometry and how the faces look, because you can see right here, like these faces will change the area as we rotate them, right? We do this, it's getting a bit smaller and a bit bigger, especially as it goes around this kind of internal rotation. So that's why we're getting new distributions of the points there. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of like keep this randomized rotation and then kind of like track the points and make it super good. That would be like with some set positions and making sure all the motion is like kept and it's like super kind of like mathy. So instead, I'm gonna be lazy and just use mesh to points. And let's just cut this out. So we can say cut. Now we have it on all of these vertices. We can go to the faces. Now it's on all the faces. And if we do this, they will all move perfectly aligned to the faces. That's good because that's not changing. So the total number of like points on the geometry is not changing. It's just the like face area is changing, which is why the distribute points on faces was not working perfectly. Great. So now let's make it not everything, and let's reduce the volume by doing a delete geometry, and then let's do I guess a random value, and let's do a boolean, and let's say we can get half of them, and we can make it like this much is probably pretty good. So we only have about 15% going through. Fantastic. Okay, so now on top of this, what do we want to like instance on this? So we can do a lot of different things. So we're gonna delete this for now, move this over, and we're gonna go over here. Okay, so then you can say instance on points, right? And then this is gonna move them all away. And let's just do a sphere to make it easy. Let's do an icosphere, I like that a bit better. Icosphere. Actually, cool. So in order to set the normal correctly, you have to put it before all of this stuff. That way it will pipe the data correctly. So it needs to be before you do the mesh to points. So that's what I'm doing back here. We're capturing this face normal data and piping it back to these. So then as we rotate these, they will perfectly align and look correct. So nice. Then let's try the icosphere. So nice. We have the icospheres and they're still intersecting, but I think this does nothing because it's perfectly aligned anyway, so who cares? But this is still good practice, so we can change the instanced object very easily. So then what we want to do is we want to then shift it up, I think, a little bit along the normal. There we go, now it works, my bad. Great. So now by doing the translation of the instances by just a little bit, which should be exactly the radius, which is right here, it will then work perfectly. So if we do combine XYZ, we can then use a single value. So we could do a value node. We could put it into here and here. And then it should just work as we rotate it. And it's not touching. Perfect. So basically this is how we're going to make it work. So now that we have the tilt working, and we have this also kind of having these points to instance, and they're kind of moving around perfectly kind of tied to that mesh. What we can then do is also scale the instances. Let's do that. At least translated, and let's say scale instances. Then let's add a random value. Let's change the seed, plug it into here, and then now these actually need to be shifted here. So Shift D, let's do that. Then let's delete this. Will this work? It should. So now it should all be perfectly locked to it. Fantastic. And then what we can do is basically set the materials and render it out. So in the shading workspace, we need to make two materials. So let's say base matte, blank do, and then point matte. Here we are, cool. We have two of them. Let's make this red, it's easy to see. Then we can go back to geometry nodes. Point matte, base matte. Look at this. It's looking like it's in there. And from here, we can just do some really simple materials to make it look good. So let's see if we can also add shade auto smooth. That's not going to work. So we got to do our shade auto smooth hack to make sure this works correctly. So what we do is we keep, there we go. So we go back into here. The shade auto smooth is right there. So I just changed the auto smooth right here. So basically this is the classic way to do it. So you can have the set shade auto smooth function inside geometry nodes. What you do is you combine two different shade smooths. One's on the face and one is on the edges. Then you can then use a logic to make sure you have a 30-degree unsigned angle. If it's greater than that, then it's going to be unsmooth, essentially. That's why we have these kind of edges then smoothed out versus the kind of like big face change staying sharp. Now it looks a lot better. And then we go back to the shading tab, and we can then work on this really quick. So I think a really way of doing quick and easy materials is by just working on some stuff. I think I like adding just, honestly, what I've noticed that it works really well and make it easy is just do subsurface scattering. We're gonna add a plane scale 10 in there so we can see that as well. And this can be dark, like, I don't know, dark blue. Cool. Okay, so we're back here. Subsurface scattering is on. Let's go back into Eevee, turn on ray tracing. Nice. That should work a bit better. And let's increase this. The strength is pretty good. Let's pull it here. And let's add the scale. Let's see how it's looking. Grab, hold a bit closer. I think the subsurface just isn't nice because it adds a lot of coloring and makes it look quite good. I think subsurface scattering is quite easy. So let's keep on doing with that. Kind of makes it feel like it's more like clay or something, which is kind of nice. And we can find a nice angle. Control-Alt-0 to get that. F12 looks okay. And then let's just change this one. So if we make it a glass material, which I think we can do quite easily, let's just do that. I think if we make 3 of them, we change the IOR slightly. So we have a value node here, like 1.5, whoops, 1.5. And then we just go like, math, 0. I'm gonna do like this. Oops, minus 0.01, 0.01, 0.5. this. Now it's all connected. And if we just add this together, shader, add this to this, add this to this, pop it in. Let me do like an RGB, red, green, blue. Should work. Okay, so now it's looking okay. Nice. So I think this is basically good enough. Yeah, so I'd say this is the main effect. And then the rest is going to be just changing the lighting and making sure this all looks good. So I'll probably finish up the video by doing that myself. But hope you guys learned something. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to look at the big node tree again, here you go. And again, the project will be up on my Patreon for the free project file. So if you want to have that, feel free to grab that. If you have any questions, please let me know. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Thanks so much for watching.